Okay.
All right, we are live. So, welcome, guys. It's Level Up session 39 with awesome Anthony Jones. Hello.
Hello.
Hello?
Like,
Wait, I don't
yeah,
know if I'm the awesome Anthony Jones. I think
I think
I'm
you
in the
are.
wrong chat.
No, no, no. No, no, no. Okay, so we have Jonas here as well, and Darek. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Um,
Yeah,
so
we're all gonna pitch up our voices slightly more so that Anthony Jones sounds even deeper.
Yes, exactly.
It's like we're talking with some omnipotent being or something.
Oh boy.
that's a creepy start, isn't it? You're live.
Oh shit, that's me again.
Welcome, guys.
Man, just.
Oh boy. I'm assuming there's some difficulties.
No, it's me.
Can you mute it?
Yeah,
But awesome.
Oops, I did it again.
Have you muted it already?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Wojtek, we are on the website of Anthony Jones, so I don't know if we give him a voice right now, so maybe let's introduce yourself, Anthony, to the people.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Jones. Apparently, the awesome Anthony Jones. What the hell? But yeah, I don't know what we're looking at, so I'm just assuming you're looking at my website, right?
Yeah,
And
it's your website, man.
oh, okay, cool. So I've been a concept artist since like what was it, 2007? So about 7 years. Well, at least that's when I started. I went to a school called Art Institute of Orange County. It was a very awful school. I recommend against it and any other organized educational system that is like corporated. I'm pretty known, actually. I like pretty well known for constantly like bashing on them. But it's also because when I went there, I started as a programmer. Because before I was an artist or anything, before I did anything, I was like a musician who played like guitar, and then I worked as a plumber.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, this is really shitty, like literally and figuratively, right? It was really bad, and I was like, oh boy, I need to get out of this. And so then that's when I decided, like, so I like to play video games. Maybe I can work on video games. And so then when I went to AI, I decided, like, okay, well, I'm half Korean, so I must be good at math. So I went and with programming. And then what ended up happening was I realized that's a racist stereotype to assume that all Asians are good at math. And I got really bored with programming. And then I saw, like, not to say that programming is any bad. It's just I just saw another opportunity that seemed a little more exciting, a little more creative. And it was art. So I saw like my colleagues or my classmates, they were drawing like Dragon Ball Z characters. And I was just kind of like, I can draw Dragon Ball Z characters. Is that what makes an artist? I can trace. I'm really good at tracing. And so then that's when I kind of started. And that was about 2007, right? And I remember when I was a programmer, um, I was really excited to be in school, and I was like, "Oh, look at all these new things." I had no idea. Yeah, but then like once I met like some of my classmates who drew, or I saw some other people drawing Dragon Ball Z, and then I met like a really really good digital painter friend of mine named Edgar. From there, I was hooked. I was hooked on digital art, and I was just like, "This is so cool." And then I just stuck with it. And throughout the years, everyone was telling you concept art is impossible. It's really hard. You should learn 3D. You should learn 3D. You should be a 3D artist. You should be a 3D artist. And I had nothing against 3D art. I was just like, no, I want to kind of do this 2D stuff. This looks really fun and it's pretty interesting, right? And I like the speed of it too, right? Like you get a picture done in a short amount of time. And I remember one of my instructors once said, he's like, if you're really slow, then you better be good. And if you're really bad, then you better be fast, right? And I remember hearing that, and I was like, what happens if you're good and fast? And I've always kind of kept that as a staple of my own artwork. And I'm known, specifically for my character speed paintings and stuff like that. And so because that was something that kind of resonated with me through through the years. But yeah, about 7 years later, I'm here doing this level up thing with you guys, and I'm mentoring people and trying to not just teach them how to draw, but like teach them like to get their mind right, because a lot of people kind of have this negative aspect or outlook on like how to get a job, and like they kind of lose hope a little bit. And I say life is hard all the time. Just accept that. Life is never going to be easy. Life is going to always be hard and rough and rugged. No matter what you do, no matter how well or no matter how successful you become, there's always going to be another thing. So you just got to get happy doing what you're doing now, right away, because it's never going to, like, if you're waiting for that day where life is just awesome, it'll never come. You have to make it come, like, you have to make it happen now, like currently, and be happy with the things you're doing now. And that's kind of the thing that I stand up for, and I try to motivate young artists, letting them know, like, look, I started my life not even knowing how to like be an artist. I'm sure most of you guys were art kids. Like, when everybody went to school, there was like that kid that can draw, right? And I'm sure all of you guys in here were that kid. I was never that kid. I was the music kid, And so now looking back, it's funny because some of my friends I know from high school who were the art kids, I'm better than them. And so it's funny. It's really funny. And I that's when I started realizing, art is not necessarily this kind of weird spiritual thing that you're either born with or you're not. It's actually quite a physical skill to learn. It's your brain is a physical thing, whether you believe it or not. It's physical. Like if I put a hammer to it, it's gonna stop working. Just like if I put a hammer to your fingers, right? They're gonna not work anymore. Right?
It's a machine.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's there, and what I've done is I just really practiced using the machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got really good at like understanding what goes on in my brain and what makes me draw the way that I draw. Like I've really put a lot of time and effort into understanding that aspect of myself. And because of that, I feel like whenever people like learn from me or whenever I instruct other people, they feel like that I have I'm like a wise soothsayer, but the reality is I just been there, done that, and I'm just telling you what I've experienced, and my really is because it's very logically based, because a lot of what I've done to educate myself has been like I really think about it, I think about why can't I draw or do this thing that I'm trying to do, versus like, oh, I just can't do it because I guess I'm not talented. Which most people, that's kind of the outlook that most people have. And that's not your fault. That's society's fault, and kind of separating the two. I think nowadays, especially with like the internet coming around, people are starting to come around to the fact that, wait, creativity is just like intellectual, scholar type education is really based off of like, can you remember dates and stuff like that. Creative education is more like, can you come up with something new and fresh? And they've always kept them separate. But I think people nowadays are starting to realize, wait, they're actually not as separate as you think, And so I'm just kind of, I for as long as I can remember, I learned how to draw from like the age of 23, Like I didn't have any real ability. It's funny because if you talk to any of my friends who I went to high school with, they're actually kind of I'm like an artist. They're like, what? Like, I didn't know you can draw. And I was like, I couldn't. I taught myself how. They're like, what? You could teach yourself how to draw? I'm like, yes. Because when we were all kids, think about it. I look at my children, and when I see them drawing amongst other like preschool age kids, it's not like one kid's all of a sudden like a freaking like pumping out like masterpieces. No, they all draw pretty bad. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Everyone pretty much was bad. The difference is that some people stopped while others didn't. Kept going. Yeah, really, and that's what it comes down to with anything. In fact, there's been tons and tons of studies and tons of experiments proving time and time again. And it's funny because if you ask this type of question to somebody too, science has proven that time and time again, repetition and practice gets you places. And if you ask anybody, let's say if you were to draw 100 pumpkins, or like 1,000 drawings of a pumpkin, do you think your first drawings of a pumpkin would be good, or the last ones? And everybody knows that answer, but yet nobody applies that in real life. They're like, no, it's impossible. to get better. But everybody knows, yeah, if I draw like 1,000 pumpkins, yeah, I'll probably get better at drawing pumpkins. It's like, yeah, exactly. So start drawing pumpkins, buddy. You know, it's like no, they're like,
Yeah.
wait, what? That's all I have to do is just draw a lot?
Yeah, that's true. I think it comes from like thinking that art is like that kind of thing that you are given with. It's like a social thing that was, I think, that came from the past. Maybe like it's something more. There's something more behind art. Whereas it's still like the same skill as driving a car. Really, if you practice this
Yeah, totally.
enough, but you get better. It's simple. It's like
Yeah.
pretty methodical, and
Yeah, exactly. It's like if I watch a kid, like I've been watching these kids play the Super Mario 64, and like apparently like there's like this whole subculture of people who play Mario 64 and like try to like beat it like beyond like what the game was ever meant to be, and it's insane the kinds of things that these kids can do. And I was just kind of like, what the? But it's clear to me why. Because I spend thousands of hours playing this game, and they're like finding all this stuff, and they're finding all these secret like Easter eggs that not even Nintendo meant to put. Like there was like there's something called the secret coin, and it's like hidden in this geometry, like in the game's geometry, right?
Mhm.
And it's funny because like if the game breaks a little bit if you go into this little section of the game, and that's when people found the secret coin, and they're like, okay, we must get this coin somehow, right? And it became like this 12-year like to get this silly like and it probably was just like the modeler or the level designer just forgot to delete that coin because he couldn't see it, and they just shipped it with that coin in there. It wasn't like they're like, oh, 12 years from now someone will find out how to finally get this coin, because that's what happened. I guess like this year some kid like discovered it and found a way, and it was like everyone's like, "What? Amazing!" But nobody knows about this type of stuff except for like people like me who are like weird hobbyists and they're looking into every single thing that's out there. But that kind of stuff shows me more proof and more evidence of like people's ability. If they like, there's two things that prevent you from doing the things you want to do, which is interest and ignorance, right? So if you're not interested in something, then you're most likely not going to do it at all. Right, but let's say you are interested in it. Your lack of information and your lack of knowledge might actually be a huge deterrent, because then you're like, man, there's so much to learn. I don't know what to learn or where to start. I just give up. Like you give up before you even get started, right?
Yeah, because you gave up in your mind, right?
Because then you think it's too hard.
Start. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You think it's too hard because you know too little, and that's a great reason. That's a great reason to stop. But I say to you, if you truly are saying you're interested in it, then to me that is not a good reason to stop. If you have the interest, right? Like everybody's interested. Everybody has a. Oh, you hear my babies? Why are you telling me shush? I'm interviewing. My wife came in and she's like, shh. I'm like, you're the one that needs to shh. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so if you show yourself, like, if you give yourself a reason to stop, then you're going to stop. So you try to, like, what I try to instruct people is that everything is temporary, and everything. Oh, baby boy, it's okay, little dude.
Oh.
He's sleeping. He needs to go to sleep. But if you give yourself a reason to stop, then you're going to stop, right? So I try to educate people and say, everything's temporary. Being really sucky is temporary. As long as you're working, you'll get better. It's just fact. It's not like weird like magic tricks type stuff. No, it's a freaking fact.
Yeah, it's a matter of time that you spent on it. It's a matter of sacrifices. And
yeah, exactly.
Put everything aside and just focus only on it. But lots of people are just stopping in the half of the way. But it's like only for you have to be strong and you have to practice your mind also to be stronger to finish it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. It's maybe because I think there is a lot of trial and failure involved, and people tend to. It comes from that type of education we all gone through, where the mistake is the worst thing you can do. So you are like getting bad grades for making mistakes, basically, and It turns out with drawing and with art, actually making mistakes is the best thing that can happen because this is the only way to learn. So.
Well, making mistakes in anything is actually the best way to learn.
Yeah, that's true.
It's quite common, but a lot of people are afraid of it. They are afraid of making a mistake. But the mistakes make them stepping forward. So it's like paradoxal. So yeah.
I like to tell people if it's not hard, then you're not learning anything. You know, because if it's easy, then you already know what you're doing. You know, like I'm drawing this weird monster dude. Like, it's easy to me, not because I'm like a magic genius in art. It's because I draw the same stupid little monster guy with crazy robes like all the time. It's like what I love to draw, right? I better be good at it because that's all I effing draw. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you ask me to draw a cat, like right now, like say, hey, Anthony, Master Anthony Jones, can you draw like a cute cat? It'll be a struggle. I'll be like, okay, give me an hour, gather some reference. You know, like I need some reference because I don't draw cats often. You know, and why would I be good at drawing cats if I've never really drawn cats at all?
Yeah, it's only because you are not used to it, right? It's
and
you still have all of the base knowledge, or you have that in your mind how are the shapes built, but you didn't do it a lot, so
yeah. So it takes a little bit more practice, right? But luckily for me, I might catch on to it a little bit faster because of you were saying there's other things that I have practiced that how to control my brushwork, values, anatomy, like some things that will kind of help me get there a little bit faster. But when I first started out, I probably my ability to draw a cat and my ability to draw a creepy monster were at the same. They're the same level. I just decided to draw monsters instead of cute cats. And I always tell people don't expect to be if I gave you a couple 3 chainsaws and start juggling, you'd be like, no, I can't juggle chainsaws. It's like, okay, then why do you want to do color, value, design, anatomy, all this stuff when you don't know each one of these things at a proficient level? Everybody wants to skip ahead and start juggling chainsaws. And I'm like, first learn how to juggle just one thing in your hand, just juggle this soft hacky sack for a second and see how well you can do that, And they're like, no, I want to juggle chainsaws on fire and brimstone while I'm balancing on a trapeze, It's like, give yourself a couple more, give yourself some practice before you start getting a little crazy, obviously, when I say this type of stuff, people don't see the correlation sometimes. They don't realize that it really is the same. And I love watching magicians. I love not talking with them, but watching them talk about magic, to other magicians. This is the same way we talk, other artists talk about art. With when I talk to people that when I worked with that are amazing artists, we all understand. We all understand the trials and tribulations and all the hard work that it took to get halfway to where we're at now. Yeah. And when you listen to magicians, because they're also masters of illusions, right? Because that's all we are. We're just drawing 2D illusions, right? They're not real practical. Well, before we started the stream, I was talking about making reality, but virtual reality. But my point is they talk about it there's this one magician in I think it was in Egypt or India, I forget. But Penn and Teller, the teller from Penn and Teller, he went and met one of the magician's magician, right? And so he basically was doing the trick that every magician knows, the 3-ball chip with the 3 balls and the 3-cup trick, and he was doing it in front of him. And it was crazy because Teller knows how to do the trick, right? Yeah. But the magician, like I said, this is a magician's magician. So he was showing him the trick that he knew, and then he did a trick amongst the trick, right? And it was crazy because when you watch it as a bystander, you're just kind of yeah, that's where the ball was supposed to be, right? Normally they trick you, right? Normally they trick you, and then when they reveal the cup, the ball's not there, right? It's in your hat. Oh, it's in your pocket, and you're just oh, magic. And but with him, it was where it was supposed to be, right? And I was freaking out because it wasn't supposed to be there. He saw him do the sleight of hand. He saw him do all the stuff, and then the ball ended up being where if you were just a normal person watching the trick, you'd be like, "There's no trick here. I guessed right." You know, and it is cool because when I see stuff like that, it's more evidence to me that they're like to be really proficient at things. It just means you just are more knowledgeable, right? Like magicians practice too. You know, they practice sleight of hand. They practice tricking you in misdirections and all this stuff. Like I was trying to learn some magic trick. There was this one magic trick I was trying to learn where you basically like have to like hold the cards in your hand like a really like crazy way. And I knew that to be good at this trick, I would have to spend hours and hours practicing this one thing. And it's not even part of the. It's like it's one part of the trick. It's not the whole trick. You know, it's just like a mechanical part of the trick. And the way that I would correlate that with like art would be like just practicing painting a straight and a curved line. You know, that a lot of people don't do very well either, and yet they want to jump into crazy, super high concept stuff, and they don't know even how to draw a circle. You know, it's like, or paint a sphere. I have my students paint spheres whenever I see them like have an inability to like render forms. I'm like, well, just draw and paint a sphere in a cube. If you can't do that, well, then what do you think is going to happen when you start to try to draw like a complex thing like a deltoid intersecting with like the bicep and the tricep? You have to understand form before you can start painting form. And
it's like it's starting from the wrong side. We in Polish bastard call it like starting from the asses, from the ass side.
You Polish bastards and you're really mean and demeaning terminology. Starting from the ass.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start using it though. I'm gonna start saying you're starting from the ass end. But wait, but that doesn't make any sense because that isn't the ass in the bad side to start. Wait.
Yeah, and that's the bad. Like this is like a saying that means you just do it wrong way, right?
You are walking around the basics. Yeah.
Okay. I get it. This is funny.
All right, go ahead, man.
Yeah, but anyway, so for me, like I've been a real aware of my own progress. You know, like I've met artists who are like really really good, but they don't have any real. They can't really instruct others to help them get better, right? And they know that. Like I met one artist and I was talking to him at CTN, and he was just like going off about like because I was telling him I was like a teacher and all this stuff, right? And I like. And how I love to teach and all this stuff, and he was just like, man, I can't teach. I tried it once, and I'm really bad at it. And I was like, what? You're a freaking amazing artist. How's that possible? And he's like, dude, like, it's just drawn, you know? So I'm concerned it's just like breathing. Like, I don't know how to teach someone how to breathe, really, you know? It's just I've been doing it for so long. Like, when someone will ask me, like, well, why did you use that shape? Or well, how do I do that? And I'll just be like, just because, man. And I'm like, what? And it made sense to me because, like, for me, I didn't have that potential disadvantage, I guess, right? Because I didn't have anything to fall back on. Like a lot of people say, do you ever do line work or whatever? And I was like, no, I didn't really need to. I just started straight into shape and painting, you know, because I wasn't tied down by any kind of preconceived way of drawing.
So you did what you loved.
Yeah, I just did whatever I thought was cool. And digital painting, and I saw it was just mostly shape-based. And I was like, okay, let's do that. And luckily for me, that's actually like a really huge thing to kind of get your mind wrapped around. Like if you can wrap your mind around shapes, that's actually big. So I kind of lucked out. But my point is that, you know, when I was talking with him, and it made me realize that, like, yeah, like some people, that's why people think art is like this kind of mythical or spiritual thing sometimes. Because some of these artists even they can't describe it other than being a spiritual thing, right? Because think about it like this: like if I didn't tell you guys like to think about your breathing right now, you wouldn't be thinking about it. And now you're thinking about it because I said it, right? And now you're like, wait, well,
you're ruining my life.
Am I breathing? You were thinking about it, right? And that's what I'm trying to say is like, and I watch my kids, like I'm watching my 11-month-year-old or 10-month-year-old son, and I'm watching him like just learn how to stand, he has no idea, right? Like he's just like, what is this thing? And he's like keeps falling, right? And it's very clear to me what's happening, right? Like it's him, his brain is trying to adapt, trying to learn, it's trying to make him better at standing, right? And he's getting better at it. He's learning how to like fall and slowly descend, you know. He only fell a few times where it hurt him, and he kind of got the hint. His brain's like, all right, that's bad. And when you're at that age, your brain is just going basically on autopilot, right? It's just learning on autopilot. That's why, like when you're kids, you're like your brain's a sponge because you don't have any preconceived notions. You're just kind of just doing it and your brain's just adapting. Mm-hmm. And when I see that kind of stuff in like my children, like my son has a hard time like grabbing things, like it makes me realize like the ability to just pick something up off the ground is a crazy miracle. The fact that we don't even have to think about it. Like if you play the game of catch, like throwing a ball between you and your friend, the fact that you can throw the ball accurately at your friend without even thinking about it, like without being like putting your finger in the air, like the wind velocity is going in the X, Y, Z direction, and the ball is about 2 kilograms or whatever you Polish bastards system is, and then you know what I mean, like. You don't do that stuff because your brain has been programmed to keep that all in your subconscious, right? Like autopilot, And that's why if you ever watch football players or baseball players, any person that does a professional sport in the game, they practice just those little parts of the game, right? Like throwing the ball, catching the ball, running with the ball while someone's like trying to tackle you. And they just practice those constantly, just those little things. So that way when it comes to game time feels easy, because training was hard. Because like we were like Navy SEALs train like by trying to like basically stay in cold water for hours. Not because they might stay in cold waters for hours. It just could happen, right? It doesn't mean that every time they're in a scenario they're going to be in cold water. When I'm going back to my point about said earlier is like, so whenever I see people that like are really good at art and they don't have a way to describe it, it just means because they've been doing it since they were kids. Like it's like walking to them, breathing to them. Or like me, I've learned it from the ground up, so I remember. You know what I mean? Because I was an adult when I was learning. I was very actively aware of what was going on, and what I was trying to do and achieve. And so I love hearing of like stuff like from Frank Frazetta. Because he was one of those people, right? He was one of those people that just drew since he was a kid, right? And he just never stopped. Like he was doing comics when he was like 16 years old and whatever, right? And he wanted to be a baseball player because he was just like, baseball's so much cooler than drawing. And well, that's debatable, but whatever, right? That was what he wanted to do, and and he ended up getting and all that stuff, so it kind of derailed it, and I think he got an injury, right? But he actually had the potential to probably be a pro baseball player. But the point that I'm making is that like he would be like, when you hear stories about Frazetta and the way he talks about art, he talks about it in like a mystical way, like it's just magical, right? And it really is, because like to him it really is like just like second nature. It's not even that big deal, right? For someone like people like us, we're like really trying to learn how to become better, And one of my favorite stories that he like few of my favorite stories that I remember from Frank Frazetta was that he said that like one time he was doing his job and he needed to draw pumas for it, so he went to the zoo and he just stared at a puma for like an hour or two, right? 2 hours. Just staring at it, not like doing studies and drawings. He just stared at it, watched it walk around, watched it eat, watched it look at him, and be like, "What are you looking at, bro?" Just watched it for like hours. And then he would go home, and now he knew how to draw pumas, right?
That's like Neo in Matrix, right? Now I know.
Yeah. And so when people hear that kind of story, I can see why they would think that art is like this kind of. You don't, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's like another time where like someone was like, "Hey, can you draw us a rabbit?" And he's like, "I've never drawn a rabbit before. Give me a second." And he just sat there in front of like the client for like 10, 15 minutes, just like in his own head, just like practicing how to draw a rabbit, or like trying to visualize what a rabbit looks like, right? And he's like, "Okay, I think I got it." And then he drew like a little sketch and showed the client. And the client's like, "Yeah, okay, that's a rabbit." and then he got the job, right? And when I hear stories like that, I understand why people would assume otherwise, you know? But you got to remember though, he drew like since he was like a child, right? To him, drawing, like, no one ever discouraged him from drawing. No one ever told him that drawing it leads nowhere. Nobody, like, he had very supportive type of system where art was embraced, you know. And ironically, he had no interest in it because he was just so good at it, you know. He just like was like whatever. It's like just because I'm good at walking doesn't mean I want to go do the walking. I'm really good at walking for long periods of time, but I'm not gonna go and join like a sport because I don't have any interest, right? And and so whenever I try to teach people who like feel like it's really hard or so far away, I pretty much tell them, convince them that yeah, it is. You're right. It's so far away.
Yeah, that's
So what are you gonna do now? Like, are you gonna quit now? You know, like, are you gonna just give up now that you know it's really hard and it's pretty far? And usually the answer is like no, right? And they come to their senses and they realize, holy crap, yeah, you're right. I just need to just do it, and they'll get there. Like, if you don't do anything, you'll never get any. You won't get any closer. But if you acknowledge that, I think the hardest part about hard work, guys, is like usually hard work is the hardest when you first try, like first get started. It's the hardest part is getting started.
Yeah,
But once
because
you
the
start getting
change is
started,
tough. Yeah.
yeah, once you start getting started, it starts to become a little bit easier. The forward momentum becomes easier and easier. And I call there's a place I call the badass threshold. When you suck for so long, but eventually you get kind of good, right?
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
hey, you know, I'm not that bad anymore at this thing. Then you get addicted, and then it's game over. And then now you're in, you know.
Yeah.
And then you're just it's like any video game you've ever played. Like that's why video games do really well, because there's a promise of progress, right? Like they say, hey, you killed 10 rabbits, bro, and bring me 10 of their skins. I'll give you this nice fur coat. You're like, oh, sick. And guess what? You kill 10 rabbits, right? And then you get a fur coat, and you're like, damn, instant gratification. Hey, if you level up to level 10, right now you're level 5, but if you're 10, you can wear this badass helmet. Oh, the helmet's so badass. And guess what? You spend hundreds of hours getting to level 90, like getting to level 1000, getting that level 17,000 epic armor. You spend thousands of hours. Like, I love World of Warcraft because they give you this catalog of how much time you wasted in your life, right? Well, let me rephrase that. You don't waste your life. You just switch lives. That's what happens. You just change different. You live in a virtual world. But anyway, the point is that they show, like, you're like, man, I can't believe I played this game for 17 months straight, like hour-wise, you know? And it's like, yeah, that's why you're so good at the game. It's no mystery to me why you have like super epic armor, because you put in the work. But the difference, I guess, with life and video games is that there's a finish line that you can see in a video game.
Yeah, that's true. Quest
That
log.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a quest log that you can't see in real life. But let me tell everybody that's listening, like, there is a quest log. There is a finish line, you know, or several layers of finish lines. And the more you give yourself those, like, the problem is you have to make them yourself, right? Like, you say, okay, I'm gonna do a character concept by the end of this week. That's a goal. So have a character concept. Make sure you follow through. You're that much closer to being level 90. Now you're still level 1, but now you're halfway through level 1. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually you'll be level 90, and then it's like when you get your epic mount, which would be like the badass threshold, I guess, in the video game, right? Like when you get your epic mount or you get that epic gear, then you're like, no, I can do anything. I can do anything in the world, you know. And then you get addicted to your craft. Like I'm super addicted to art because I've gotten good at it, you know. There was a time where it was really a grind. It really was. Like I was like, I'm looking at these kids on DeviantArt, right? And I'm like, these 16-year-old kids are like killing me, man. they're drawing amazingly well, and I'm like still trying to draw this freaking Dragon Ball Z character, you know. And I'm like, and I knew that, man. I had that awareness. But I guess if I had any ability or any talent, it would be not to get discouraged easily. That's something that I know I do really well, is I don't get frustrated when I'm bad at something, you know? I really don't. Like, I never feel like upset if I'm like I suck at something. The opposite happens. If I don't know something, I'm like, how do I do that? You know, and I get like really curious, and
That's
I
fair.
try to find
So
solutions.
you stay the calm and you will just say to yourself, I will beat it up one day. And
Yeah, and it's all temporary, right? It's all temporary. Like I know that I've experienced it enough times in my life to realize if I really want to achieve something well, I just got to put some time in. You know, that's it. Just put some time in that bad boy, and I'll get better at it. And there's this great little short video that's on Vimeo. That's like Leonardo da Vinci was like a loser or something like that.
Oh
Have you
yeah,
seen that
I've
one?
seen it. It's
I
awesome.
posted
Yeah.
on I posted on Facebook a few weeks ago or a month ago.
Yeah.
But it talks about how Leonardo da Vinci didn't get his big break until he was like in his early to mid 40s.
Yeah, I got.
Yeah. And that's a really good thing. That's a really great message that video was trying to say. Is basically there was a time where people understood that things took a long time to get done, and then I think recently, you know, with commercialization and how like everything is like commercialized, like you got to have it yesterday, you know. Like a lot of these like schools, like I try to derail, like they're like one of the things that they say is like you'll get a job in 3 years, you know. Working over at until I was like 6 years into my like 5.5 years into my career, you know. And I was in no rush to get there. You know what I mean? At first I was like, I need to get there by the end of this, whatever, right? But then I was just like, forget it. I'm just gonna keep working on the things that I can control, which is making my work good. You know, that's the only thing you could truly control is just having a good portfolio. You know, and luckily enough, having a good portfolio, guys, surprisingly enough, having a good portfolio gets you jobs. It's weird, right? How that works. Having good work,
Surprising, right?
people actually want to hire you. They're like, hey, you know, they call you up and say, hey, can we hire you? Because your work's good. They're like, no. How dare you? How dare you? No, it's funny because whenever I help a lot of my you know fans and supporters, a lot of the times that's the kind of feedback or kinds of questions that they have, and I just if you have good work, you know, and you really work on trying to get yourself in front of people too, because that's really important. Nothing beats talking to someone face to face to try to get a job. I just like nothing beats that, right? But I mean, sometimes that opportunity is not there. But you know, we live in a time where there's internet, you know, and there's abilities for your work to be seen by those who would potentially hire you. You know, and I try to reassure them that you know I can't speak for every single person on the planet Earth when it comes to like getting a job. But in my experience and what I've seen from all of my friends and all the people I've ever met who are also really extraordinary and really work towards their dreams, it's usually the same story. They had really good work, they got approached by studios, and they got jobs. It really, and I wish it was different. I wish it was like more like you can have a video game thing where you can like if you do this thing and then you know for sure you're gonna get that job. I wish it was like that. But I can assure you with most people out there, I can assure you right now that if you just have work that people like, that's almost good enough to be a good assurance that you will potentially get a job. It might not be like the day you put it out there, you might not just get a job, like people come up knocking on your door. But I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if that did happen. You know what I mean? Because like I talked to like talked to this one artist where he put out this great cinematic with like this awesome robot dude. Like as soon as he put it out there, he got called by Sony and they're like, "Hey, what is this?" And he's like, "That's the thing I did by myself." Oh, can we buy it, bro? And then he was just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." And like I had another story where someone was doing some awesome stuff, and then again they got approached by Paramount and they're like, "Hey, you want to work on Transformers?" And he's like, who is this? Oh, this is Michael Bay. You wanna work on Transformers? I saw your stuff online. It's freaking great. Like, is it true that you're this good? And he's like, yeah, it's me. Okay, you wanna work on it? You know, and it doesn't surprise me that that kind of stuff happens. And if you need examples of how to know your work is good, if your work is good if it's competitive to the people who inspire you, you know. And that's a really, luckily for us visual artists, there is a literal gauge that we can look at. The artists that inspire you are your competition, you know, not in like a negative like, oh, now I should give up. He just said that. Oh, my competition. Ah, damn it, I give up. You know, it's no, don't think of it like that. Just know that that's the love. That's like something you should strive for. You know, versus. And then have your own voice. Become your own Craig Mullins. You know, become the person that whenever they see a work, they can identify it with you. You know, that's actually even better than having just necessarily just really good work. You know, and again, all that stuff comes with time. You know, and yeah, I've been talking a lot, man. I don't know if you guys are supposed to interview me or anything.
Well,
Yeah.
let me just sort of reiterate. So basically, what you're saying is that the ass is the wrong place to start, right?
We just zoomed out like 45 minutes of the run. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
You guys are really good at this. That's so funny.
And you have the unrolled story of it in this place.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta funnel it down to like a core sentence, So I think that sort of expresses it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I get going, man, I get going. I apologize. You guys are welcome to tell me to shut up for a second. But
No. Let's keep going, man. Keep going.
Yeah, the people are loving it. So.
All right, but yeah, you guys all know what I mean. That's like, this is something that I whenever I talk with other like when I was at Blizzard, we would just constantly, I would just every day, I'll be like having these great conversations with people that are like-minded.
Yep.
There's a reason why everyone there is there, and it's a beautiful thing, man. It's like beautiful to be surrounded by like-minded people, and everyone says the same thing. It's just nobody wants to put in the work. We're not saying that because we want to trick you guys into like, they're gonna do the hard work. We didn't do that. Suckers, there's all they have to do is drink this juice and then they'll be awesome, like we all did, right? We all drank that juice and we all gave up our souls. They don't they don't need to do that. They're gonna work, suckers. It's not like that at all. It's we all drink the juice to work. Like I was one time someone was asking me like how I started learning how to draw mechs, right? Because he's like, hey, I like your mechs. Like, how did you get better at drawing mechs? And then and it was funny because he was trying to because I think he knows me well enough to be like, I was gonna say a lot of work, right? He was like, but like other than like just a lot of work, like what did you do, right? And I was like, a lot of work. I just decided one day that I was really bad at drawing mechs and I didn't want to be. I wanted to draw mechs more. I like mechs. And so all I did is I was just like basically just gathered thousands of references that I thought was good mech design, and I didn't think were mech related, but like that could be mech related, like cars. Like if you look at like a lot of my mech stuff, it's very car and motorcycle driven, like inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And then just did that. I just studied that stuff for like a good like couple months, and then I got better at drawing mechs.
Mm-hmm.
Am I surprised? No, not at all. I was not surprised at all. I wasn't like, I'm a prodigy. How can I be a prodigy when I'm like, well, at the time I was probably like 27. I just knew better. I just knew, given enough time, I'm gonna be good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like we were talking before we started this stream. I'm learning 3D right now, and not like concept art 3D, because that's what I know now, where I just make really, really crappy models that have good shapes, and then just put them into like Keyshot and just close my eyes, and then when I open them again, they're like fully realistic rendering, and I'm like awesome, and then I just walk away, right? But I actually want to make like production level 3D. Like I actually want to learn how to do 3D, not in the kind of cheap way, like in a really structural and foundational way, because it's going to be useful to know that type of stuff later down the line. And so guess what I'm doing? Like Jonas? Jonas? Is that how you pronounce your name? Is it with a silent?
Yeah, Jonas, John's ass,
Okay,
JR, J
John.
Dot.
So I was talking to John's ass last night, like about 5 in the morning, and he was like, "Wait, why aren't you sleeping?" Because I couldn't sleep because all I could think about was 3D. Right? I woke up around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just turned on my phone and I was just watching some guy model some headphones. Seriously, because I was like, I need to like learn, and even though I'm not doing it, like even though I'm not practical, like I'm not in front of like a computer, and I'm paying attention. You know, I'm taking mental notes. I'm like watching what he's doing, how he's beveling, how he's extruding, and I'm like, oh, that's clever. Oh, that's interesting. You know, and that stuff's gonna stick with me. So when I go to my desk to go, even before we started this chat, I was in a 3D program. I was checking on something. I was seeing if there was an option that this software that I really love to use, which is Silo, if it had it, and I realized it doesn't. So I'm like, sorry, Silo. This might be the time where I say goodbye because other softwares are so much better than you. And I just need to, but the things that Silo does really well, you know, I'm gonna miss, but it's okay. It's a bullet that I'm going to bite because of these other softwares have so much to offer. And I'm watching these like videos, these kids doing these amazing 3D models, and I'm like, you know, starting to grow even bigger appreciation for it, you know. And I suck at it right now. I'm pretty bad at it, but again, it's all temporary, you know. And instead of like when my teachers and all my instructors at AI were like, you got to learn 3D. That's the only way to get a job, you know. Like back when they said that, I had no interest in it. I didn't want to. And now that I have an interest in it, you know, I'm going to be more driven and more passionate about the kinds of education that I want to get, you know? Mm-hmm. And, you know, ironically, even if I would have stuck with 3D at AI, I probably still wouldn't have been any good because they didn't have any good programs there. So they were kind of like a 3D school, right? And so it's better this way, right? Because I at least I have a really good background in just art and design, right? Yeah. And so now once I learn the tool, which is 3D, right? Once I learn the software and learn how to get the kind of results, I kind of get the results that I'm looking for. You know, then I potentially could be unstoppable, right? and that's something that I'm very aware of. I'm like, dude, if I can really learn 3D, like not just like your concepting 3D, like real 3D, I could potentially, you know, make conceptual worlds where people can interact with them. That's what I'm doing. Learning Unreal Engine, right? I'm going to start learning Max and Maya. You know, like
that's awesome. Yeah.
My 3D environments that are potentially going to look photoreal, and then be like, so this is the concepts I did, whatever, right? And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, you want to see it? Like, wait, what do you mean we want to see it? I'm looking at it right now. I was like, no. Wear these goggles. It's called the Oculus Rift. And here's a controller. Like, go inside my environment. And I'm like, what? And I was thinking, like, imagine, like okay, see this painting I'm doing right now? Well, like, what if I did, like, a 3D sculpt of it with textures and the normal maps and all that great stuff, right? And then I put it into, there's, like, a museum of my concept art. So there would be, like, 4 or 5 iterations of this guy, but, like, statue, like, mannequins that a client can literally walk around and fly around and see every angle of this thing fully realized before they can sign off of it. And I could do it within a couple weeks, you know? And then once I get better at it, I could probably do it in a couple, or in a week. In a week, and then eventually a day, because technology is getting to that point where there's no excuse for me not to learn 3D. You know, there was a time where it really was like super, like you had to really understand the technical aspect of it to really get.
Yeah, software becomes really easier and easier nowadays.
Yeah, people are making it so it's like they're like, okay, so you press this button, like, and things get done, you know, and they're just like, nope, I don't want to learn 3D. They're like, but we made a button. You're like, no, I don't care. You know, it's like, but there's literally this button, you press it, and it will unwrap everything for you. It's like, no, screw you guys. That's ignorant. You know, I don't want to be that guy that says, back in my day, we concepting, because now all these virtual reality concept artists are taking our jobs, and it's like that's how it was all. There was a time. There was a time where um, tempera was all the rage when it came to painting, right? And then oil painting came around, and people were like, "Oil painting? What is this wet paint that doesn't dry bullshit?" They started getting pissed. They're like, "Who are these people? They're not real artists. Real artists paint with tempera, where it's really choppy and impossible to paint with." And real skilled masters can have total control of their abilities. Don't need to use this magic new tool, whatever, right? And the oil painters are like, "You guys don't know what you're missing, you know." And then now you look at it, it's like same thing, right? It's like if you look at all this, like these digital artists, they're not real digital. Like digital artists don't know how to paint and design and all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
They look at Photoshop the same way. And then now the Photoshop artists, some of my friends are like, yeah, ZBrush. I see what people are doing with ZBrush stuff, but it's still like there's nothing that beats Photoshop. And then it's like, don't you hear? Do you hear yourself? Like you're becoming the old man. You've just gotten old, and there's truth to what they're saying. I understand. Like foundational information and knowledge transcends tools, right?
Yeah.
Like James Cameron said, his favorite technology is paper and pencil, because nothing gets an idea down faster than paper and pencil, and that's true. And that almost will always be true up until they make the virtual mind reader. But until then, it's true, right? But he still is like the pioneer of technology. He's like constantly building space cameras for Russia satellites. He's like one of the few people on this planet who's seen like the bottom of the ocean, and he's on the frontier of technology, but he understands fundamental knowledge is very valuable. But he's not. He's like an old man that's like reinventing technology. Bill Gates, same thing, right? He's like using his understanding of technology and development to like change the world, and like those who when I hear things like when people find excuses new, it's usually because change, like making a drastic change in their life, it's hard, and I understand that. And honestly, if you're someone out there that is okay with where you're at with your life and your art, that's fine, actually. I'm not here to tell people like everyone should be inspired and become an astronaut tonight. It's like I don't know. If you're happy with where you're at, then that's actually I'm actually kind of jealous. Because I have abilities that are also my strengths are also my weaknesses, which is like my ambition just gets too overwhelming for my own good, and I take on too many things too often, and sometimes I can't get things done, and that's a curse that I've been very aware of. And so then whenever I hear people that are completely content with the way they draw and stuff, I'm like, that's nice. That's actually nice. And for me, it's not, right? I'm always like, how can I make art so crazy? And how can I make people to see more inventive, crazy stuff? And when I see other artists that are doing the same, I'm like, how are you doing it? Like, how are you trying to change the mold? And then they're also in that kind of curse as am I, And so I guess I'm not really entirely sure what I'm going with all this, but what I'm trying to say for a lot of people out there, is like embrace, reasons why to work hard, not reasons why you shouldn't work hard. Like a lot of the stuff I was trying to say is like whenever I hear people saying like, oh, this and that, or this is changing, and I don't want to do that because people are stupid and it's not going to work out or whatever. Like when I hear that kind of stuff, it's very disappointing. I hear it from the kinds of people that that want their art to transcend and become better, and then they're finding reasons not to. It's very upsetting. It makes me sad. But for those of you who are beginning, I think a lot of you do want to have some ability, right? And I think the best way to go about it is to prevent yourself from having anything stopping you. Like, don't give yourself reasons to quit. Yeah, I'm gonna stop talking for a second. I'm gonna let you guys have something
No,
to
no,
say.
it's perfectly
'Cause I'm
okay.
sure there's
No, man,
questions.
it's a pleasure to listen, man.
Yeah, yeah. We're all sitting here in awe, and
Yeah.
Do you guys have your pants on? Make sure you guys all are wearing some pants right now,
Yeah.
because I don't want this to be awkward. Am I
ah,
talking
there's tissues. It's okay.
because I don't have any pants on? Whenever I talk to people online, I actively take off my pants halfway through the conversation. So I started with pants on. Now I have no pants, and by
Okay.
the time this stream is over, I will have no clothes on.
Then you
The
turn your camera
beauty of
on.
internet.
That's awesome. You know, actually, we don't have like this is quite exceptional that we have such an experienced person, you know, trying to convey so much stuff and painting at the same time, which is awesome. Like, not a lot of people can do that. Like, you're talking, you're giving us like so much knowledge, so much experience, and in the meantime, you're just painting, right?
Yeah, well,
That's awesome.
that again is like one of my
Yeah,
students on my
yeah.
my mentorship was like, "What's happening right now? How are you able to paint and give us a lecture?" You know, and I'm like because of practice. I've been teaching for about 5 years. You know,
Yeah.
there was a time where I couldn't, and
Process.
and so then I you know, like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
and I understand, and then so I got better at it. And one of the things that's happening right now, I'm drawing something that I'm used to drawing. You know, so it's kind of hacks in the sense that I'm drawing something that I draw often, which is weirdly grotesque monsters with lots of clothing and cloth, right? It's something I love to do, and I do it whenever I'm just. It's like my meditation, you know. Again, if you were to ask me to draw anything, this or mechs, like mechs are another thing that I can draw without necessarily being very aware or alert. What else? Weapons, I can do that. Anything character based, really, I can just kind of just go for it. But if you were to ask me to do something like anything other than that, it'll be so hard, man. I would have such a hard time. It's okay. Think of it like this. Like I am very aware, and I watch a lot of videos about education and like lots of things on how our brain works, right? And that's what's driving a lot of my ability is my understanding of like how the human works, right? So have you ever seen like those movies that are always just like we're using 10% of our brain, and if we could only reach our 100%, we would be telepathic people like Scarlett Johansson, right?
Bullshit.
And, and then we can change our irises and become tiger people and bird people, whatever. If you know anything about anything, you know that's completely false.
Yeah.
Like that's actually not true at all. And I was actually kind of shocked that they started using that gimmick, you know, and but whatever. I'm not here to criticize a movie. I'm here to just talk about that point though. Is that I know better. I know that actually we use 100% of our brain.
Yeah.
If you guys weren't sure, let me let you know right now. What? How? Like, well, because it's our brain, man. It's in there, and in fact, there's people out there who can't use 100% of their brain, and they have mental disabilities. Okay, so that's how you know that if you're an average person watching the stream, that's how you know you are using 100% of your brain. Okay, now.
That's a good start. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good start to help you convince you. Okay, so let's talk about why that's also true. Well, one of the other reasons why that's true, for those of you who are still not convinced, is like, nope, I still can tap in. I can be like Goku. I can start flying around, and it's because our brain is doing other stuff than just being conscious, right? It's not like it's not full-time job. It's not just sitting there, like letting you know that you're awake. You know, it's actually doing other stuff like pushing blood through your veins, managing your organs. You know, reflexes. You know, like breathing. Your brain is, by the way, your brain is controlling your breathing, so you don't have to think about it. Just keep doing the thing you're doing, bro. And you're like, all right, cool. Because again, there's people out there who have a disability that part of their brain is not functional, you know, and they have hard times throughout their life, you know? And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that I know this, right? And I know what our brain is really good at doing. Our brain is really good at autopilot, like putting things to autopilot. But the only way for our brain to do that, and it's going back to kind of watching my kids like learning how to like walk around and stand, is through trial and error and calibration and through repetition, right?
Persistence, yeah.
Yeah, our brain is paying attention and is cataloging all that stuff, and it's calibrating a lot. And so as I draw this guy, this type of thing, over and over and over and over again, I can't thinking anymore. It's almost breathing, you know? Like, for example, like this type of stuff is actually, I'm trying to kill two birds with like trying to put some more Heaven's Hell art up in the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've drawn hundreds of these types of guys. You know, he's not the first. Like, he's different, and they always become a little bit different, which gives them, you know, a unique voice. But at the end of the day, they all kind of have the similar aesthetic. And so it's not, as to me, it's not like any. I'm looking at this and I'm not like looking at my own work and like, how do I do this? How do I do this every time, man? I'm so good, you know. I'm very aware of how I'm doing it. You know,
you get an expected result, right? Because you did it 100 times, yeah.
Yeah, and I can rely on it, right? I can count on the ability to do it again and again and again, you know, confidently. And if you want that ability, you got to do the same thing to whatever it is you want to get better at. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be monsters. It could be vehicles. It could be 3D. Like, I think 3D is a great platform, and it's something that I got myself at. But it efficient and pro level at something, you just got to just do it a lot. And there's ways, like, there's definitely ways to do things a lot and do it a lot more effectively, right? Like the thought process behind it. And that to me is that's kind of another thing that I think I do differently, and why I have like I feel that I may have an exponential curve when it comes to information and like learning things. And it's mainly because I don't approach it like what I would see most people do, which is just copy, like seriously just straight up copy, and then leave it and be like, I did this copy painting or I did a study, and then they try to do their own thing. They're like, how come I can't do the thing that I was quote unquote studying? And the reality is that specific method, the best way to learn faster and to learn effectively is to do it a lot, like a tremendous amount of time to put into it, right? But what sucks about that process as well is that you might not be entirely sure of how you're doing it either, right? You might run into that point where you're just like, you don't really know, you know, because your brain is just calibrated enough that it's like your brain's like, don't worry about it. Just start going, and I'll drive from here. and for me, what I've done, and what I try to teach my students to do, is be a little like, go look up the definition of the word study and do that. It doesn't say copy. It says like analytically, like think about it, into research and development. Like, I approach it like a scientist. I give myself a question, right? Like, how do you draw this? Like, how do you draw cats, right? And then I give myself an analysis of it. I'll give myself a hypothesis, right? I say, okay, I think you could draw cats if you understand their anatomy at a fundamental level, right? And then I think I'll get one step closer to drawing cats, okay? And then I go do it. I say, you do it. You do the experiment to test out your hypothesis, right? Mm-hmm. And then so I set up like closed situations. It's like, okay, I'm just going to draw the head, not the full cat, not the full body, not the crazy dynamic. Just if I can draw a head of a cat, I'll be good. I would have solidified this hypothesis, right? And I would do it, and then find, oh yes, I was right, but realize that this and this, and you know, and then I ask, okay, now that I've at this point, I think I can draw cats quickly if I can truly master this thing, whatever it is that I've discovered in my previous research, right?
Yeah.
And then I do that, and I was like, nope, I was wrong. Let's try again. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's this, right? And then I just keep doing that, and I do things in small. Like if I were to do a Sargent painting, like if I was to try to study the way that Sargent paints, the way that I would go about it would be like just take a small portion of his painting and study that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do like a whole painting, like copy it and move it over to another move it over to another software. I wouldn't take it from the JPEG and make it into another JPEG. You know, I would like literally just have a bunch of nasty looking doodles that if you were to see them, you'd be like, wait, this is the same guy that I thought was a good artist. You know, like because it's awful, it's bad work, and I'm glad that it is because it means I'm learning. You know, like if you look at all my I love to see the expressions of people's faces when they see my sketchbook, right? Because they're expecting that every piece of drawing that I do there is immaculate, but it's just a bunch of garbage, a bunch of like loosely drawn things, and it's really bad. I'm not ashamed of it at all. I'm never like, oh man, this guy's really judging me hard. I better like make a sketchbook just for people to look at, you know, and I just don't have a sketchbook like that, guys. I'm sorry. You'll never see my sketchbook. That's just beautiful. I won't. I'm not like my buddy Daniel Chavez, where his sketchbook is freaking beautiful enough that he can actually sell it.
Yeah.
But then again, think about like Daniel is like he's drawn like he does every day. Like when he was still at Blizzard, I would catch him like just when he wasn't, he would never be working. Sometimes he'll just be sketching. he'll just put it on his tablet and pretend that he's actually like working. And then when they would come by, he'll just like put it off to the side real fast before they realize, And like, but my point is that like he does it a lot. So his sketches are, and he's trying to have good sketches. He really appreciates good sketches, good line art and stuff like that. I don't care. I don't sketches. Not to say that I think it's a bad thing. I just don't have any interest. Hence why I'm terrible at it. I only use it as a learning tool. Like I take paper and pen because pen is not forgiving, and I'm trying to learn something. I'm not trying to be a good artist. I'm trying to learn something which will make me a better artist. Because knowing stuff is half the battle. Oh, is that G.I. Joe? Or was that Captain Planet?
Captain
Planet. Well, it's like knowing is half the battle. Captain Planet, he's the hero. I forget.
I've never heard of
I forget what it is. You don't know who Captain Planet is?
No, I've never heard of it.
That's probably a good thing, actually. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's not worry about it. All of my American people are like, oh yeah, Captain Planet was garbage.
I've seen some episodes. It's like,
don't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Later on, just watch the YouTube trailer, okay, or the YouTube video of it, of the opening cinematic of it, whatever. It'll tell you everything you need to know. And there's one scene. Okay, so everybody, let's talk about it just for a little bit, just a little bit. And so there's one scene where they show all the kids and their powers, like they have like the elements of the planet, like Earth, wind, fire, right? And they're all doing something badass. And it gets to one guy who has the ability of heart. Of course, he has to have the ability of heart. But it's like worthless. He's actually like when it gets to him, it shows his face, and he's just like heart. And then there's actually a monkey that runs across the screen in complete fear. And because like they're like in a burning forest, and he does his ability, but his ability is basically calling Captain Planet. He's like, I don't know what to do, bro. Get me out of here. And so it was a terrible show, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. Who show? They're like, they know exactly about freaking the Mowgli-looking guy. I forgot his name. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Let's stop talking about it. I'm sure you guys have a Polish version of Captain.
I think it was screen. Like it was in our TV. I can remember. Yeah, like shouting like different kind of like earth, and shit, like fire. Yeah, and they were doing like crazy shit. And then the last guy was kind of yeah, kind of fail.
Yeah, the joke's on us though, because we probably do need Captain Planet now. Oh man, we should have listened to Captain Planet and what he had. Anyway, anyways,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Actually, we have tons of questions going, and I'm kind of skipping because you are just answering them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just it's taking over. Complete taking over.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah. All right, let me look it up for a minute. Maybe you can just talk about
inspiring storytelling. I have a bunch of stories I can talk.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Story time with Anthony Jones.
That's perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, so
okay, so don't interrupt Anthony, and we are shut up right now.
You Polish bastards! I told him.
Dude, I'm not Polish, by the way.
It doesn't matter. You're Polish by association.
Yeah.
It's too late. You're like, I'm actually not Polish. It doesn't matter. I'll only see you as a Polish bastard forever. Even when I meet you, I'll be like,
okay.
Polish sausage. You better have a Polish sausage ready for me.
Well, I'm totally.
I tasted American version of Polish sausage. Oh God, you don't know what you're missing.
I believe you, man. I believe you.
Yeah, you can believe me.
I heard that getting the sausages with packages while traveling by plane is quite forbidden. People did it like like a trade. You get a lot of kilograms of sausages with them on the plane, and
Oh, really?
Yeah. Especially with Polish guys, and just bold. So
Just boats of just immigrants just bringing over Polish sausages. All right.
That sounds crazy, isn't it?
All right. So I'm gonna tell you guys I'm gonna tell a story that I think is important for people to hear. There's a few people who actually they were really depressed. Like some terrible things may have happened to them. Some really good artists actually, right? Some friends of mine, and they were like, dude, what the fuck? My life and all this stuff. Asking for some advice. And I tell them the story because it's a real story. It's happened to me. It's something that happened to me. And I think it gives people perspective, just a little bit of perspective. So when I first started out, like about a year trying, I finally got I spent like a full year just working hardcore to become an artist, right? I was like just in it to win it. And I became an artist. It happened. I put in all the time and effort telling everyone else to do. I did it, right? And it did well for me, and that's why I always give it as advice. So I got the job working on Hasbro, but it was like freelance, and I was just working from home. But then eventually I got like a studio job. I got an interview because my buddy, he helped me out. He hooked me up with like a job opportunity, and then I took it, and I worked at the studio, and it was a very small studio, and I just was not motivated. I was not inspired. I was just constantly just, at arms with what I thought was going on there. But, I was inexperienced. I thought, well, whatever. I don't know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But eventually, after a year working at the studio, not having anything that I did there that I was actually proud of, I was not proud of anything. The studio shut down because it just was. I had a feeling that it was, but I just couldn't believe it. Oh, is Photoshop gonna crash? Oh, that's a signal for me to save. Save. So then like about a year in, I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything to show, and the studio's shutting down, and I just was actually pretty depressed because what happened is that's when I met that's around the time I met my wife. Well, at the time she was my girlfriend, right? And we were moving with each other, right? We were moving in together, and she already has a son, right? And he was moving in with us and all that stuff, and it was all good. It was all great. But what had happened was I lost my job, and that was what we were really going to be banking on for us to be able to live together. And I was like, oh my God, you know, and I had no portfolio, I had no abilities like that I was proud of. I was just totally in a place of like real sadness, right? I was really upset with my life and kind of why I didn't keep up my portfolio. And I basically had a pity party for myself for about 2 hours, right? I was really just sitting there like kind of really upset, like on the verge of tears, just like really sad. And then I just said to myself, well, this is no good though. I mean, I can sit here and cry, or I can try to do something about it, right? I mean, I have to do something about this, right? Because I have people that I'm responsible for now. And so then I basically just, you know, got out of the bed and I called my girlfriend, my wife, and I told her, like, I told her the news. I told her this sucks, but I have a plan. You know, I told her like I'm gonna really work my ass off, and I'm going to get myself jobs, and so we'll still be able to live there, and everything will work out just fine. I promise. Right?
Yeah.
So guess what? I for like the luckily for me, like I put together a portfolio in like a week or two, and then that portfolio was able to give me a job locally to work some freelance, which was helped us move in, you know, and get a place. And then after that, I just worked my ass off and just started doing fan art to get my stuff seen. I started to email artists asking for advice. I was constantly trying to get feedback. I kept on working, because I wasn't working for myself anymore. I was working for others, you know? And what ended up happening, that's when I got my break on, I got a job at Sony, and it happened because one of my fan arts, I did like a Smash Brothers painting. Smash Brothers, you know, and that was on the backs. That was on the monitor of the game director, and they were like looking for concept artists, and he was like, "Hey, is this guy a concept artist? You know, I love this work." And they're just like, "Oh yeah, I think he is, but we'll test him just to make sure." And so I did art test. They liked the art test, you know, and got my first real game industry job, and that was at Sony Santa Monica, working on God of War 4, right?
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and then I got a job, and I started feeling the same stuff that I was starting to feel at the other studio, where I was getting a little complacent, and I started to get like content, I guess, you know. But I said to myself, never again, you know. Never again will I just kind of just stand by and just let my work deteriorate, or just let my work be whatever it'll be because of the system that I'm put into. I'm going to do my own work, my personal work, just as much as I do my professional work. So that way, if I ever leave this place, I can have something to fall back on, right? Or I can leave when I want to leave. You know what I mean?
You're not trapped inside of the
Exactly.
system.
Yeah.
You can
And
you can't afford that, having people that you're responsible for, and
oh
sometimes you
man.
cannot even afford it like for yourself. Just
Yeah,
have
yeah.
some kind of backup.
So I tell everyone who's listening to stream, like, life will never get easy, you know? Like, life will always find a way to kind of test you out, you know, really test the waters and see if you're worth it, you know? And I all throughout my career, there's always been some sort of struggle, some sort of life. And I've just kind of been, like, only like in the last year or two, I've really just kind of come to accept, like, hey, you know, I'm actually really happy right now. You know, I don't need that much more, and I'll go at a steadier pace nowadays. You know, like I think I'm good. You know, especially when I had my two babies. That's kind of when I started to kind of even have a different perspective on the things that are worth like doing. You know, and the moral of the story, though, like the story that I just told about my own life, is that, you know, it's okay to be upset, and it's okay to be like, you know, depressed every once in a while, but just know that let that depression manifest into aggressive progression versus more depression. You know, just more going in the reverse and becoming someone who does nothing about it. You know, just let it sink in. Let yourself have that little bit of mourning for yourself. You're allowed that. You're allowed to be kind of a bitch for a second. You know, you're allowed, but then don't let that be the thing that stops you from moving.
Yeah, exactly. You used a very interesting word, which is like being a little bit angry. I don't know, but like there is a lot of stuff of like you cannot fill yourself with bad emotions and stuff. But actually, like being angry enough to force yourself and to get your shit together and stop like whining at some point and just start doing. It's really like kind of getting. It's not maybe getting angry in a bad way, you know. It's kind of a I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, and this is my
Yeah,
choice. This is my
be
life. I'm
aggressive
going to
about
decide
it.
what
Aggressive progression. Yeah, aggressively make movements. Like start
Yeah.
doing. Sometimes I try to instruct people to actively be more about that. Like, don't wait till something terrible, really terrible happens to you. Like that happens too much to me, man. And I'm trying to get better and try to preemptively strike some things before they actually terrible things happen to me. You know what I mean? And sometimes you gotta just like let something really terrible happen before you can start to really move forward. But if you can prevent that, you'll have a less grief, probably less character too. Actually, I don't know, because my character's been built because of all these terrible things that happened to me, and I just know from experience and watching other people the way they handle things and seeing like just getting caught in that vortex of depression and helplessness almost never really gets you out of it unless you actually do something about it. I think having it is okay and it's actually very healthy and normal, right? I'm not trying to be sad, dude. Kumbaya. It's like no, like it's gonna happen. Just don't let it be a thing. Just be let it sink in for a second and then just kind of kick butt. You know, um, one thing that I advise people to do if you really want to become more thing you can do to do this before so that way you don't have to let something terrible happen to you is like make lists of things to do, like things you want to get done, and then give yourself a game plan on how you're going to do them, right? Like like I said, the two things that prevent people from doing things is ignorance. I'm sorry, is inspiration and ignorance. So here's another example of it. If you don't know how or what you want to do, then you're not going to do anything, right? You're just going to sit there and be like, I want to have a portfolio and a job, but I don't know what I'm going to do that. Like you need to draw, but you don't know what kind of things you're going to draw. You need to have artwork in there, some sort of artwork, but you don't know what kind of artwork, right? Like start eliminating those question marks. Start putting concrete quests, for you to do. So like be a little bit more specific is what I'm getting at, right? Like and say I'm going to do a fantasy character by the end of this month, right? That's like what my mentorship is driven by, is by literally telling people this is what you're going to do. Like a lot of people want to do all this stuff, right? I want to do this and this and this and this and this, and I'm like, nope, just do this
One
one
thing.
thing first. Because once you do that, you don't know how, because you'll never finish anything that way. Because you'll run into the trap that I've ran into, And I tell them like think of it like this: if you're a runner, if you're like a Olympic runner, and every time you ran the mile, you stopped halfway through, you're like, it's too hard, and you just walked away. You never know how fast you can run the mile, right? And since you don't know how fast you can run the mile, you don't know how to improve. Like you don't know what to beat, you know. And if you so in the way that it matches up to art, the way that what it means to me is that if you don't finish a painting, then you don't know. Like if you don't finish a painting, you don't finish a project, then you don't know what you need to improve on truly, right? Because you might be bad, you might be actually really terrible.
Hello?
Oh, just cutting out before. Anthony?
Hello?
Hello?
What?
Yeah.
What?
You were talking about being bad. I'm not realizing it.
I think he's having an epileptic fit or something.
Okay. You Polish bad. High-speed internet.
You,
Here we go again.
you Mexican motherfucker.
I'm not Mexican, dude. Oh my god.
Well, I'm not Polish.
Yeah, you are Polish by association. We already clarified this.
Yeah, and you're in California, so you're Mexican by association, right?
No. I'm either Korean or Indian. Get your stuff together, man.
Yeah, I think
Learn statistics. But anyways, you are Polish, and now we all know you're a racist too. You're a racist Polish person.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty common.
yeah, it's pretty common. Hey, so where are you from originally, Jonas? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm from the Royal Kingdom of Belgium.
So yeah, you pretty much are Polish as far as I'm concerned. They're all the same, right?
Yeah, the thing called Europe, it's out somewhere.
You disappoint me with your American ignorance, really.
See, I have no interest. I have no interest, and I have ignorance when it comes to your kind. The California, the master race. By the way, I don't know if you guys knew. Everyone from California is a master race.
Yeah, I heard some.
Yeah, that's why all the game companies here. We're all a master race. Anyways, let's get off the racism stuff. So, what I was trying to get at, I guess, was what was I talking about? It was like about life. It's hard.
Yeah, it went further. It was about being bad and not realizing it, and yeah, it was.
I don't even remember. It's one of those things. Oh yeah, it's like the racing thing. That's right. That's talking about the race analogy. If you don't finish a race, right, then you'll never really know how to improve. You know, like you just got to suck a little bit so you can see how badly you suck and you can adjust. You know, and it's easy to just let yourself kind of just have a vague sense of how bad you are versus having a specific. You know, the clarity is what helps you get through things, because then you can move forward. Like I give myself, like for 3D, like one of the biggest hurdles for me is I need to learn a software that will truly make me feel like I can stay creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the biggest thing. And so what I'm doing is I'm testing out this, right, and seeing my limits, you know, seeing the limits of the software. And, okay, it up a bit. Maybe I need more reference at hand, you know. Maybe reference will help guide me a little bit more than it did before, you know. And that I can only do that if I know where I'm at. Otherwise, I'll just be guessing the whole time, and guessing's no good. You know, it's guessing gets you nowhere. You know, and or I mean, it may get you somewhere, but then you might be one of those people that run into I don't know how to do it again. You know, and that sucks. That's even worse, because you may have done something really well, and you're just like, okay, great, and you try to do it again, and you're like, I don't know how to do it. You know, and that sucks. I hate being in a position where I'm not in total control or an total understanding of what's going on, of my own work. Like I don't mind if it's something else, but if it's like something that I should know better, I'm really frustrated for my lack of knowledge, and I go and proceed to figure it out. You know what I mean? And I think there's no secret here, really. There's no secret on how to get better. Whenever I recommend a school for people, it's usually Art Center. If you can cough up $250,000,
yeah, sure, man.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, you can go to Art Center.
Sell my whole country.
Yeah, Your whole country, yeah, probably. But
Yeah.
yeah, like the only reason why is because they make you draw, man. Like if you just follow their curriculum, they have great instructors and they make you freaking draw. Like like seriously, like thousands of drawings, like for one class. It's insane. And like it's like everything that we've been talking about this whole time. It's just like that's kind of the way to do it. And if you can't motivate yourself and you can cough up $250,000 to do that for you, then go for it, man. For everyone who's trying to learn and become like there's a slow shift in education for online education. It's starting to become a little bit more affordable. It's reaching not just locally, it's going around the world, right? And I'm making other artists actually to sell their education for really affordable prices, like for a couple bucks. I'm sure lots of people have been already taking advantage of that, where a lot of these great artists are starting to make videos that they would have never done in the first place, you know? But then I told them, I was like, look, you can actually make a decent coin from your fans and supporters, and your fans and supporters can not spend anything. You know, they're only spending like a couple of dollars, and there's enough people out there that care about what you do that they can actually, you know, support you. You know, and it's a beautiful system right there, right? And I was like, you don't have to do any kind of like equality controls itself. People are very aware if you're doing something that they're not going to learn anything from. You know, so that forces you as an educator to be a little bit more find cleverer ways to really teach something very people. You know, and you can keep it pretty honest. And I really enjoy this new kind of shift, and it's only for like for education. It's going to be for like making content too. Like I was telling you guys, I'm learning Unreal and all that stuff, but like I'm thinking like I can also make a game if I wanted to. You know, like what's stopping me from doing that either? You know, I can make my own 3D animated short. Like what's stopping me from doing that? You know, other than time. Like, do I have enough time in a day? And I don't yet. That's why I have to get really good, so I can get really good and really fast, so then I can do all these other things on the side. You know, but that's going to take time. Maybe a year from now, I'll be doing 3D animated movies, only because I would have practiced like heartily for about a year. You know, but I'm prepared to wait. I'm not in no hurry. You know, and and it's no mystery to me. That's all. I'm surprised when I get better at something because I know what I was doing. I'm very attentive at what's happening. I'm paying attention really hard, so that way I can replicate it. You know, because if you can replicate it, then you can do whatever you want, right? You can learn whatever you want. You can start to like I've done a lot of these cool memory tests and stuff like that because I'm trying to increase my memory and my visual and spatial memory, so that way I can look at stuff and be like Frank Frazetta and just be like, now I know how to draw a panda, you know, by just looking at it. Yeah, and it's hard, but it's just because it's hard, there's no reason not to do it, right? Yeah. So anyway. Questions. We should go to the questions.
Questions. Let's drop some.
Okay, so the first one is, Anthony, do you lift?
Does thou even hoist? Yes, I do.
Okay.
Next question. Let's keep it.
Wow, we thought you enrolled that subject as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I go to the gym and I pick up a weight and I put it back down and I pick it up again and I do that repetitively and consistently. And
okay, so you just answered the second question, which was, if so, do you lift your kids?
Yes.
Because it's really good because as they get older, they weigh more, and so you kind of
I get stronger. No, yep. Exactly. That's the point.
Well.
One day I might do a mentorship for weightlifting. I'll make my own like Gumroad videos on how to lift your children. Yeah, those are going to be super expensive. I'm going to make them $400. Anyways.
Right. Let's do some serious questions.
Yeah, I think it's the time for some serious questions. That's true.
Yeah, there is tons of them, but in the meantime, when you are saying something, Antonio, there is like 100 more posts about what you already said. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look for. Yeah, there is like some people bringing up the topic of being in a relationship, which you mentioned, and at the same time trying to get work, trying to get better, and managing these two things at the same time. You want to have your personal life, but then you have to devote all these hours to the work. So I don't know, maybe some advice on that, like how to.
Yeah, I got some advice.
Yeah, how to handle everything in the same time.
So you fill up the bathtub, and then you put them in the bathtub head first for several minutes,
Painting, yeah.
and then you get back to work. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Some American way to do it.
Yeah, don't do that. So here, a few questions you should ask yourself. One question you should ask yourself is: do they actually appreciate the things that you do, like the art that you want to do, right? Or are they're jealous of it, or are they constantly badgering you in a negative way, right? And I mean a negative way as in like they don't think you're doing anything valuable. Or are they genuinely want your time because they actually care about you and they want you to be around, right? Because those are two different things, right? So, for example, like my wife will call me when I'm like working super late and be really upset, but not because I am working on the things that I love, because I've been away from home for almost like 10 hours, and she misses me, right?
Oh.
And how can I get mad at that, right? And you guys should not get mad at that kind of situation either, right? So what's the solution? Because sometimes that happens. Well, communication is really the solution. Just really being able to compromise and really creating a situation where they know that there is a time where you're going to be unavailable, but then there's times where you are available. And you have to stick to that. I think that's a really big one. If you could do that, your life would become so much easier. You know, like you gotta really like let them know that, hey, this is the time I'm gonna be doing this thing. I need to do it so that way I can get better. Like just explain it to them, and if they love you, they'll understand. And then they'll be like, and then you have to give them an opportunity to be like, okay, but I want you to be around for this time and this day and whatever, and you gotta follow through on that part too, right? And so, what I like to do is like schedule. Like that's one thing that I think helps a lot. Like actually tell my wife like days that I'm going to be working crazy hard, you know.
Yeah.
And so she's totally aware, and she knows what's up, and so it's not a surprise. I think that's the problem. It's not so much that they don't care about the things you do. It's that you don't tell them when you're going to do them. You just start doing them, and then you're like, you don't understand. I must draw all the time. You don't have to draw all the time. You just got to draw a lot, and sometimes, right? Like you can pick a day. Like if you do like a day where you just are gonna work, like that's enough time, really. You don't need to have like every single day. Like you just need I understand you need a time slot where you can like work for several like 3 to 4 hours consistently, so that way you can progress. That because you sometimes you get that warmed up and the ball starts rolling a little bit, and it's only like after the first hour when you start to do stuff. I get that, and most people get that too, but you should always avoid miscommunication like that. You should never just spontaneously for example, today I forgot completely that I was supposed to do this today. I forgot to tell my wife and everything, right? And I was in the wrong in this situation, right? So I explained to her, I was like, look, we can go to breakfast though, let's go get breakfast and all that stuff, and then after breakfast we'll go do this thing, we'll go get your phone and all this stuff. I'm trying to make up for my irresponsibility, right? Because I messed up because we have a really good system, but at the same time, there's been occasions where she had done that to me, and it's fine, because we're in a different level of understanding. We're at a point where we can we can mess up every once in a while. It's fine, as long as it's not consistently doing that. Then we're going to go back into our bad habits of not telling each other when we're going to be doing stuff. It's like I am in the today, you know what I mean? And I have to make up for that. I have to compromise for that. You know what I mean? And if you're in the same situation, you just don't ever put yourself in a position where you're blaming your family for not chasing your dreams, because that's not fair. So not only to them, to you, that's stupid for you to be putting your family in such a situation. Like you're basically saying, if you have kids, like I have a lot of people who have friends and that have kids and wives and husbands and whatever, right? And whenever I hear that kind of stuff, I actually get kind of upset with them a little bit. You know, I say, so I basically say it really blatant. I'm pretty upfront with them. I say, so you're telling me that your kids are stopping you from doing what you want to do? Like you're saying that your children are actively telling you that you should stop drawing, right?
Yeah.
And then they're just like, no, well, no, but you know, they want to be like, hanging out with me all the time. And I was like, you don't have to hang out with them all the time for them to still love you, dude. You know, like you just got to be consistent. Like for example, my second eldest son, I was supposed to hang out with him last weekend, but like I was just really behind a lot of stuff. So I told him, I was like, when you come when next weekend, we're gonna go hang out. We're gonna go to the PC cafe and we're gonna play and we're just gonna chill. You know? And he's like, okay. Because when I say I promise, right? I make that guarantee and I follow through. And that kind of stuff means a lot. That goes really far for both people, because he's understanding that I am working hard, not just for myself, just so I can get better and really get to the point where I really, you know, want to do the things that I want to do, but also it's what's putting food on the table. You know, everyone understands. There's no one's gonna stop me from, you know, no one in my family is actively preventing me from following my dreams. But I am the only one that can actively prevent from being around, and that's something that I don't want to be responsible either. Right? I want to be around. And I think that's something that people need to kind of take a step back and think about what's really what's really going on. You know, like, is it really your family, or are you just lazy and you're blaming them and you're not really finding a solution? You're just feeding into the problem. You know, like it's a problem if you keep it a problem. But like almost all things that are, you know, hard, you just need to find a solution. There's always a solution. You just got to look for it, and that takes work. You know, it might not just be like easy, like, okay, we're now structured and we're happy. You know, it's like you might actually have to work on it, because you might actually have bad habits where you have the time, but you're on Facebook or you're playing Call of Duty with your grand.
It said duty.
Yeah. Your time's ran out, and now you're supposed to hang out with your family. You're like, "Boy, I didn't get anything done." Like family's. It's like, no, this time it's your bad. You know what I mean? Like this time you're stupid and you're wasting your time on things that are clearly not important to you. You know, but yet you feel like they are for the time being, and then you get messed up, and then you end up hurting the people that actually care about you and want to be around you. It's stupid. You know, just don't put yourself in a position like that. Take a step back and think about what's really happening. I mean, I've had friends who were asking me for similar advice, and I told them, and then they did that, and their lives were so much better, you know? And I've had friends, I told them, like, you know, think about what kind of relationship you're in, and they realized what kind of relationship they were in, and they dumped their girlfriend, you know? Because they're just like, oh, yeah, like, she's not supportive at all. Like, she doesn't care. Like, we talked about it, and she's like, no, all your time should be for me. And that's not fair, right? And that is something that you can kind of make a rational call after that and be like, okay, yeah, maybe it is her. You know, she's actively trying to, you know, it's a toxic situation that I'm in, and I just need to get myself out. Because again, you're not tied down, right? Unless she's like has a knife to your family and says, if you leave me, you know, I'm gonna murder your family. And then maybe you can kind of ask yourself. Then you can ask yourself, well, how much do I love my family, right? You're like, all right. Love them. Don't family. I'll keep drawing, or I won't draw anymore. But
Yeah,
anyways, hope that answers.
yeah, it's beautiful said what you said. It's like all about the communication with your love and your closest people around you. And as you said, sometimes maybe the bet is not on your side, but if you have the opportunity to sustain your relationships in a good way, in a good condition, it's why not? Why not to start to communicate more and being more balanced with your life? I had the same kind of problem in the past when I started doing more and more projects, and I put everything aside, just didn't care much about the people that are around me, like my girlfriend, and it really bounced back in a bad way on our relationships. But
Yeah.
after we tried to find a mutual language for it, we talked a bit more about it. We just spent a bit more time after maybe in the breaks, as you said, not playing in the games, or just talking to each other and having fun that we can be together for a moment or so. It's
Dark, you're slowly fading. Slowly fading.
As we speak,
Another
she's
cave,
unplugging
man.
your internet.
oh, sorry guys.
Yeah.
So okay, so I was just about to tell that the communication is like Anthony said, the most.
It's happening again.
It's again.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe
It's like
we,
you're
we are
telling, it's
we
like
are
you're
not
telling a story while you're falling down a well or something.
we are not maybe we are not supposed to talk that much today.
Like coming back to what you said, Anthony, I think it's
Poor John S. I really wanted to hear what he had to say. Oh well. I guess it's that Belgium internet. You should have been Polish. You should not upset the Polish gods.
I live in London, actually.
Oh, now see, now you can't make up your mind what you are. All right.
Oh,
Anyways.
no, I'm not saying I'm British. Definitely not. No way.
Oh, that's racist. We're slowly finding out that you're a really racist person.
Yeah. Yeah. Being English is a race, right?
All right, let's continue before this gets really toxic.
so coming back to what you said, Anthony, I think it's really something beyond technical knowledge, what you are trying to kind of explain here. And what I would love to see is a book from you that would be called Life with Anthony Jones or something like that. I would totally buy it. I mean,
I just name it.
I think that we will definitely pray for you after this session.
Why would you pray?
I'm imagining like a book with really intimate photos right now.
No. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that at all.
While lifting with
Children.
no pants.
Stop getting so wrong. I just tried to be, just try to appreciate. You get it all wrong.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. I know what you meant.
Okay, we just interrupted you, man.
I'm just trying to search for more questions. We are getting like closer and closer to wrapping this session up.
Yeah, can we just take maybe one or two of the best questions that I think really need to be heard and answered?
Of course.
Not to say anyone else's questions is probably not.
Yeah.
We can do another one. We can plan for another one where it's just straight up Q&A.
Yeah, of course. So maybe coming back to your exploration in terms of tools right now, I'm talking about the transition into 3D. Like, there's a question, Anthony, as you explore different media, do you think 3D has impacted more of your 2D work or the other way around? Like right now, of course, you're trying to learn 3D, but you haven't done it right now, so you can basically predict how it will impact. So maybe just talk a little bit about how much easier 3D may be for you, or if you would be 3D artist, how the transition to 2D would, happen.
Yeah, how do they relate to one another for me specifically?
Yeah.
I think like when it comes to the foundational stuff, like 3D is going to be easy as a tool to kind of help me get my my visual ideas. Like once I become a better 3D artist, I'll be able to make this guy in 3D, and then not only be able to make him in 3D, I will be able to like light him and do all that great stuff that I want to do, right? But what it will probably do is like once I start doing my 2D stuff, and it's already kind of started happening, specifically with the environment stuff. I'm trying to do specifically our environment, not character, just yet because like I'm not an environment artist even as a 2D at a 2D level, right? I'm going to be doing like a mentorship for environment, but I actually have my buddy who's an environment artist who's going to co-teach it with me, because I'm not going to be like, all right, I know how to do environments, give me your money. It's like, that's stupid. I don't know how to do environments. I know like what makes environments look good. I know how people should think about it and proceed with them, but I don't do it on a professional level often. Not often enough for me to feel comfortable teaching people in an active way. Luckily for me, I have a really good friend who's a really good instructor when it comes to that stuff, and so he'll be really kind of the active lecturer / critiquer. I'm just going to be there to kind of do more of the life coaching, mentoring stuff, you know, because that's all I'll be able to do. And then I'll be like, you can use this tool to do stuff too, I guess. I don't know, maybe. Listen to him; he's more, you know. But you know, I'm aware of that, right? And the class is going to be at the same cost, you know. It's just, but you get two instructors, really. But the point is that like I'm not an environment guy, and so I kind of have no preconceived notion, to any sense, right? I don't have anything that like any habit that could easily discourage me, you know, from learning 3D. You know, again, don't find any reasons to learn 3D or not to do 3D, right? And so, okay, that could be a reason to kind of like subconsciously prevent me from moving forward, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I would instead want to do is learn something that I have really little knowledge about. So that way it's like learning something completely new. And then at the end, I might actually learn how to do environments too. You know, it's like killing two birds with one stone type of thing. Mm-hmm. But like as I am doing that, like I'm starting to be even like as I'm doing like my own, like this guy right here, I'm thinking about how this guy, you know, and then I'm like making adjustments as I go. I'm like, okay, actually model this, you know, like from what I know, or I don't know how to model this. What do I need to learn to be able to model this, right? Because I have modeling friends who can take my concepts and they just they go with it and they kill it. But these aren't there yet. But I feel learning 2D and having a really good understanding of lighting, form, all that stuff, and having an aesthetic eye for good design, that stuff's going to transcend. That stuff doesn't matter what tool I'm using, right? But the tool stuff, like, I want to try to subconsciously become a really good environment artist. You know what I mean? Yeah. Using 3D, because I feel like it's already kind of there's a lot of benefits in doing that. Like this one, 3D gives you free perspective, you know, and so what's cool is to be able to have like that free perspective. I'll be learning kind of like how to see perspective better as I work in perspective more and more, and then I'll start to be like the same thing with the characters. Like I tend to see perspective with my characters. And that alone has helped me see perspective in environments. Oh, yeah, my wife's knocked on the wall. She's letting me know time's running out. I told her I'll only be talking for 2 hours. So, yeah. But you know, like, and at the end of the day, it's like just got to put some practice in, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not too afraid on what the results will be, because no matter what they are, they're going to be really positive. So.
That's awesome. All right. So we don't want you to we don't want to hold you back anymore. So thank you for these 2 hours. These were very inspirational, and like I said before, beyond technical. And sometimes that's really more important, you know, because you don't draw if you are not motivated. So sometimes it's more important to at least sit there and do it, and not how but why, right? So you really got that going, and that was really, really awesome. And in the meantime, we got a beautiful drawing, which is kind of. I feel like you just played a video, you know, and you were just talking.
Oh, you're right.
That was so fluent. I couldn't really like find any themes. Yeah, it was awesome. So, guys, if you are enjoying what we are doing, and if you enjoy what Anthony is doing, go to his Facebook page, check out his webpage. It's on our event page. Every link that we mentioned, every resource is already there. So go check it out. If you enjoy level up sessions, oh, it's Belgium / Okay, I get it.
I love how
to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
I love how Anthony keeps insulting me and then calling me a racist.
Oh, we almost forgot about the
the question.
level up question.
Oh, the last question, the most important one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up?
Okay.
Anthony, would you rather be a billionaire or Godzilla if you had a chance to choose?
Godzilla.
Okay, and
Right.
why? Why is that?
Right,
That's the most important part of the.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, but I got to wrap up now. My wife's like looking at me real stern.
Okay, so we
She's
got it.
like,
Yeah,
you
okay.
said 2 hours, and I said, yep, you're right, 2 hours.
All right.
Can you want to
Awesome.
say hi, everybody?
Okay. Thank you
She
very
said
much,
no.
man.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right, well, thanks
Bye,
to everybody who watched, and thanks you level up, guys.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man. It's an
What you
amazing
guys are
event.
doing?
It's
Yeah, you guys are doing great stuff, man. Let's do it again, and yeah, let's talk in the future, and I'll post this image for everyone to check it out on Facebook,
Awesome.
and then what I'll try to do too, if I'll try to put it out so everyone can get the PSD, so they can look at
Yeah, just
all the
send
little
it.
stuff. But anyways,
Oh, your kids are calling me.
it's time's up, man. I
Yeah.
gotta go.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, guys.
Yeah.
We'll talk to
Okay,
you guys
man.
later. Did I just hang up on this call? I don't want to look at you guys
yeah,
anymore.
Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
I'm just kidding.
Have a lovely
All right,
Sunday.
guys.
See ya.
All right, we'll talk to
Bye-bye.
everybody later, and peace out.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks
Take
again.
care.